Our Chief Justice is Melville Fuller, and our landmark Supreme Court case is Dred Scott v. Sandford in 1857.
Melville Fuller was born on February 11, 1833, in Augusta, Maine. His parents were Catherine Martin and Frederick Augustus Fuller. His mother, Catherine, was a piano teacher, and his father, Frederick, was a well-known lawyer. After his parents got divorced, he went to go live with his grandfather, Nathan Weston, who was the Chief Justice of the Maine Judicial Court. At the age of 16, he went to Bowdoin College in Brunswick, Maine, and graduated in 1853. After he graduated, he attended lectures at Harvard Law School for 6 months. At age of 22, he was appointed city solicitor and elected president of the Common Council. He was elected to the Illinois House of Representatives in 1863. He was appointed by Grover Cleveland in 1888. He was best known for being the Chief Justice in Plessy v. Ferguson. He died on July 4, 1910, at the age of 77. One fun fact is that he has a statue built for him on the Kennebec County Courthouse in Augusta on August 15, 2013. Another fun fact is that he was the first Chief Justice to have law school training.
The case of Dred Scott v. Sandford includes Dred Scott and his wife Harriet Scott, who were both African American slaves who had lived with their owner in a free state. Their owner was Dr. John Emerson, who was a surgeon in the United States Army. In 1836, Dr. Emerson and Dred Scott moved to Fort Snelling in the Wisconsin Territory, which is now Minnesota. This was the first time Scott was able to live in a free state. Here, he met his wife, Harriet, and they were soon married by Harriet's owner, and her ownership was then transferred to Dr. Emerson so the couple could be together. In 1840, Dr. Emerson had been transferred to Fort Jepson in St. Louis, Missouri, which was still a slave state. Dr. Emerson died unexpectedly and left Dred Scott and his family with his wife, Irene Emerson. Irene and the Scotts moved in with her father, Alexander Sandford, who was pro-slavery and continued to lease out the Scotts as hired slaves. Starting in 1846 and going on for the next 3 years, the Scotts filed petitions to the Circuit Court of St. Louis to gain their freedom from Irene and her father. After 2 more years of working as a hired slave with no income, on January 12, 1850, their case was heard, and the jury had granted them their freedom. However, Irene and her father didn't want to accept the court's decision and decided to appeal her own case to the Missouri Supreme Court. On February 12, 1850, the case was officially named Dred Scott v. Sandford. The Chief Justice of this case was Chief Justice Roger B. Taney. Roger Taney went to Dickinson College and was appointed by Andrew Jackson in 1835. On March 6, 1857, Taney and the Supreme Court decided that because of his race, Scott was not a citizen of the United States and had no right to bring suit in the federal court. He also ruled that Congress didn't have the authority to prohibit slavery and that Scott had never been free while living in freed states, so him and his family would remain enslaved. This case took place during the 1850s and the 1860s, which had a big impact on slavery. Events such as Bloody Kansas, the Compromise of 1850, and the Underground Railroad all occurred during this time, ending with President Lincoln's passing the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 to abolish slavery in the United States. This case went to the Supreme Court because slavery was unlawful to the common law. This case led to one of the Supreme Court's most infamous decisions that would eventually lead into the American Civil War.